The day my toddler melted down in the middle of a grocery store, I thought I was failing as a mother. I'm Ananya, I'm 31, and I became a mom just 2 years ago, and until that afternoon, I truly believed that tantrums were a sign I wasn't being firm enough. It was such a small thing. He wanted to hold the carton of strawberries, and I said no because I was afraid he would drop them. Within seconds, he was on the floor, screaming in a way that felt bigger than the situation. People were staring. I felt heat rise in my face. My first instinct was embarrassment, then frustration. I remember thinking, why is he behaving like this? I've told him we don't scream. I've explained how to ask nicely. I tried reasoning with him right there in aisle 4. I told him we would have strawberries at home. I told him we don't lie on dirty floors. The more I talked, the louder he cried. By the time I carried him out to the car, both of us were exhausted. He eventually fell asleep in his car seat, cheeks still damp, and I just sat there in the parking lot feeling defeated. That evening, after putting him to bed, I started reading. I had been feeling this tension building for months, these intense emotional storms that seemed to come out of nowhere. What I found shifted everything for me. I learned that at 2 years old, the part of the brain responsible for impulse control and logical thinking, the prefrontal cortex, is still very immature. Researchers in child development explain that toddlers rely heavily on the emotional centers of the brain, especially the amygdala, which reacts quickly and intensely. In other words, when my son was on that grocery store floor, he wasn't choosing to misbehave. His brain was overwhelmed. I also read about something called emotional regulation and how young children don't yet have the ability to calm themselves down without help. According to pediatric and developmental research, co-regulation is the bridge. A calm adult nervous system helps a child's nervous system settle. That sentence stayed with me. I realized that in aisle 4, I had been trying to control his behavior instead of supporting his nervous system. The next tantrum came a few days later at home. He wanted to pour his own milk, and I said no because I was tired and didn't want a mess. The crying started again, loud and immediate. But this time, instead of correcting him, I sat down on the kitchen floor next to him. I took a breath. I said, "You're really upset. You wanted to do it yourself." He kept crying, but I didn't rush to stop it. I just stayed close. Something different happened. It didn't end instantly, but it softened. His cries became less sharp. He leaned into me. Within minutes, he was calm enough to listen when I said we could try pouring together. That was the first time I saw the theory play out in real life. When I regulated myself first, he followed. Over time, I began to notice patterns. Tantrums were more likely when he was hungry, tired, overstimulated, or during and even in the days after an infection, when his little body was still recovering and his tolerance for frustration was lower than usual. Developmental psychology often calls these lagging skills rather than bad behavior. Toddlers have big emotions and very limited language to explain them. Their frustration isn't manipulation, it's communication. When I started viewing his meltdowns as signals instead of defiance, my entire posture changed. I stopped asking, "How do I stop this behavior?" and started asking, "What is he struggling with right now?" Sometimes the answer was simple, like hunger. Sometimes it was autonomy. Toddlers are wired to seek independence, but they still need boundaries. Research on early childhood autonomy shows that offering limited choices can reduce power struggles because it gives them a sense of control within safe limits. So instead of saying no to everything, I began saying, "You can hold the strawberries in the cart, or you can help me pick them." Small shifts like that made a noticeable difference. What surprised me most was how much my own childhood beliefs showed up in those moments. I was raised to see obedience as the goal. But as I read more about secure attachment and long-term emotional health, I realized that connection builds cooperation far more effectively than control. Studies consistently show that children who feel understood are more likely to develop stronger emotional regulation skills over time. I am still learning. There are days when I feel tired and less patient, days when I react before I think. But now, when my son falls apart over something that seems minor to me, I remind myself that his reaction makes sense in his 2-year-old brain. He is not giving me a hard time. He is having a hard time. If you are in that season right now, standing in a store or sitting on your kitchen floor, wondering what you're doing wrong, I want you to know this shift changed everything for me. When I stopped seeing tantrums as bad behavior and started seeing them as unmet needs and immature skills, I felt calmer, and he felt safer. And in that safety, the storms slowly became easier to weather for both of us.